All right. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, members of the media, and particularly to SABC. We have brought here the leadership of our alliance led by the African National Congress. The Deputy Secretary General will then address you on the purpose of this conference that is taking place, Africa-Cuba solidarity being the main focal point. And she will also speak to those that are joining her this afternoon. Am I audible now? Am I audible? All right. Should I reiterate? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, members of the media. This afternoon we are being joined by the leadership of this conference that is taking place, which is a conference that is looking at Africa and Cuba solidarity, a campaign and a struggle that has evolved over many, many years. I am joined by the leadership of the Alliance as well as Father Michael Lapsley. But all of that is going to be explained by the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, which leads the Alliance. It's a conference that is being done jointly by the Alliance as well as a number of other progressive civic organizations that have been working in the space, and mobilizing organizations that have been working in fighting to end a number of ills such as the economic blockade against Cuba that has been perpetuated for several years. Without any further waste of time, I'm going to call on the DSG to address you. Yeah, that's better.
Yes, thank you very much, and good afternoon, members of the media, comrades and friends. We are quite humbled as the Alliance to be hosting the Africa-Cuba Solidarity Conference, the 7th conference of its kind, the second to be held here in South Africa. Of course, we are here together with a veteran of our own liberation struggle, as well as the international leader of the Friends of Cuba Society, Comrade Father Michael Lapsley, who is a known outspoken internationalist. We gathered here in Mpumalanga precisely because we come out of the 112th conference of the African National Congress. We now are in this conference to, amongst others, host on behalf of Africa this conference. It is not a South Africa-Cuba conference, but an Africa-Cuba solidarity conference. We have a number of liberation movements that are here. We have a number of solidarity movements, civil society bodies, women's organizations from Africa, as well as young people represented in this conference, as well as the workers of the world represented in this conference. Of importance with this conference is us looking at the developments globally that have to do with the geopolitics. But key in it is that as we deal with the issues of Russia, Ukraine, deal with the genocide in Gaza and the West Bank, we also are taking the struggles of Western Sahara and Cuba also to greater heights. Our focus in the coming 3 days would be on solidarity with Cuba. We've done everything, we continue to do it, and we do it because of our conviction to the rights of any country to have its own freedom of choice, including the right to self-determination. What we abhor is the dominance of one against the other, and in this instance, the unilateral blockade of Cuba and the silent actions of multilateral platforms. And it is precisely because of that that in this conference we have identified 4 tasks. The first task is to go beyond the political issues and look at the economic aspects, because Cuba is now feeling the pinch around economic isolation. We're looking at opportunities that exist now amongst the friendly forces of the world and see how best we can use those relationships and economic platforms to undermine the blockade, and demonstrate that it is not the Cubans only that are affected. What do we mean by that? We've got our own friends from the BRICS communities that are also involved in this to deal with the first task, and they are participating here through their different political parties. The second aspect is around promotion of cultural exchange programs between the people of Cuba and the people of Africa. And in this instance, our major target are cultural organizations, creative industries, and most importantly, our young people, so that then through cultural programs, we can be able to promote a people-to-people relationship. The third aspect is around the use of multilateral platforms. Just as it has happened with us, we would want out of this conference to say, how best do we make use of the Africa trade agreement that also brings African nations together? How best do we use BRICS, but also the existing multilateral relationships that we have throughout Africa and throughout the world? The fourth is, in that issue of multilateral platforms, we also are looking at how we should call for the reform of the United Nations and other multilateral platforms, so that then the issues around Cuba are not just matters that are taken through motions, but there has to be action against the United States of America. We know that many people are saying, is South Africa not overzealous? The world was not overzealous when it stood with us, including the people of Palestine, including the people of Cuba. They took risks to liberate this country, and therefore ours is to actually live to the ideals of Comrade President Nelson Mandela and President El Comandante Fidel Castro. The last one, it's around the issues around political mobilization. Here today, we don't only have our historical allies in terms of liberation movements, we also are seizing an opportunity of interacting with political organizations that are in power and that historically in their own countries were assisted and supported by the people of Cuba. At the end of the day, we need to have a common message, we need to have a shared vision, and of importance, we need to extend our hand of solidarity and our hand of friendship to them. So basically, those are the four tasks. In our mission, we want to also move beyond just our own meetings and gatherings, but also have deputations that must go and engage with different institutions and formations. So that's primarily how this conference is being packaged. We're moving beyond messages of support to actions in solidarity with the people of Cuba. Thank you very much, Comrade Matlengi.
Thank you, DSG. Thank you very much. What we will then do, if there are any questions, we will allow those, and they may be directed to the DSG, they may be directed to the men, in the high table, and from the Alliance, as well as Ubaba Michael Lapsley. But thank you very much. I'm ready for that. You've got everything. This is SAPC, DSG, and colleagues. Karen? I don't think it's working. Please proceed. Yes, yes.
Cuba was, oh wow. Cuba was one of those who applied to join BRICS at the summit, at the recent summit. Will South Africa be one of those who lobbies for Cuba perhaps to be considered in the next round to join BRICS? Yeah, I think that's all I want to ask for now. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. TSG?
The good thing, Karin, was that prior to the BRICS summit, we had a BRICS meeting of political parties. And all the BRICS political parties participated, and they are the ones who even extended the right of Cuba to participate at the summit. Secondly, in the discussions and the bilaterals that we have had, there is also a keen interest. That's why you have the Communist Party of China here. That's why you have Russia represented here. Political parties from those countries being here. As we speak now, our SG is off to India, continuing on the party-to-party engagement for solidarity work. Brazil, anyway, we know that the Workers' Party of Brazil, even though they are in coalition, this is what is happening. As we deal with the issues about the future of BRICS, we need to take advantage of what exists, which is the Development Bank, which also you're looking at issues around trade relations, and precisely because of that, it's not even about Cuba joining BRICS. It's about what those who stand for humanity within the BRICS family. We are now 19, by the way. We are now 19. Others are already here, the new family members of BRICS. So the work here is about not just waiting for Cuba to join, but it is about doing something today with the advantage of the relationship that exists.
Thank you, TSG. Colleagues, I think the engagement we had wanted to have is sufficient for the purposes of us having transmitted the message of conference. We will then allow our leadership to be recused so that we can proceed with other things. And then we will continue doing the work. I don't know if you had final comments, Comrade TSG?
Yes, my comment is to Father. It's nice, I'm a Catholic, delegating a father is a rare opportunity. Yes, a communist priest. To comment.
A word from, yes, a word from father. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Just worth noting that the Friends of Cuba Society was started between 92 and 93, before democracy came to South Africa. And it was conceived of from the beginning as people-to-people solidarity about ending the blockade, and of course, and also the demand that the United States remove itself from Guantanamo, and more recently, the issue of the United States, ironically, putting Cuba on the list of those who support terrorism. So now, all these years later, those demands have not yet been met. So this becomes part of the demands and the heightened commitment from this Solidarity Conference. And I think, in a sense, by being here as Friends of Cuba with the Alliance, is underlining this issue of solidarity is for all people. And we ourselves have always said, you don't have to have any particular ideology to be part of Friends of Cuba. As long as you support Cuba, as long as you support their right to exist, as long as you support them able to make their own choices about the kind of society they want to be. But of course, also the blockade has been there since 1959, and sad to say that it worsened under Biden. there was a period with President Obama that there was a move towards normalization of relationships, but this is now gone backwards. And of course, the United States also has sought to punish people who relate to Cuba. But I suppose my deep hope is that a conference like this, that we'll all go away inspired, but with new ideas as well. And that's the beautiful thing about having people from other struggles and from other parts of the continent, where often there's very original ideas. And also we should be clear that in the United States itself, there's a strong pro-Cuba solidarity organization. So we need to distinguish between the choices that governments make and the choices that people make. Now in South Africa, there's also a kind of argument that says, why should we be worried about Cuba? We've got our own problems. Well, it's true, we've got our own problems. But Cuba took the opposite position. 1959, there's a triumph of the revolution. Within 4 years, they were sending doctors to Algeria. And since then, they have walked with the people of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, not so much in statements at conferences, but in very practical acts of solidarity. But also, I appreciate what the Deputy SG made about the cultural exchange. And this has been often a big part of what we've done in Friends of Cuba. As we sit here today in the summer school at the University of Cape Town, there is a film showing about Cuba. And tomorrow there'll be a discussion about a recent book from Cuba. So that cultural exchange is very important. And in the past, we've also had Cuban film festivals, because there are those of us politicos who will go to a political meeting. There's those of us who wouldn't, but they'll go to a film festival. So there are, and of course, going forward, I do believe that our Cuban trained doctors have a key part to play in popularizing Cuba and disabusing the false information. Now, my sister mentioned that I was a priest, so people think, oh, Cuba is a communist country. I preached in the cathedral in Havana, and in fact there are incredibly healthy relations today between the Cuban government and the people of faith. And when the Cuban Five were in prison, the faith communities in Cuba played a leading role in calling for freedom. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nothing to add to that. It's an amen and amen. Thank you, Father. Thank you very much for contextualizing the struggle. And with that said, members, colleagues, we are done. Thank you.